Yes, class, we are in continuation dealing with the mechanical properties of the solids. We have discussed about stress and strain in the previous class. Stress means force per unit area, while strain is the change in configuration to the actual configuration. Now we want to do study of stress strain graph for a metallic wire. It means if I have a metallic wire with me of a given length L, like I may have a steel wire. Similarly, I can have a wire, simple wire like this of any means thin wire. I mean a very thin wire. So I have a thin wire with me which is suspended from rigid support, and I'm having the some weight is being like you did the experiment with spring. So that experiment of spring is to be done with a metallic wire. It means I take a metallic wire of a given length, I suspend the weight from the free end, and I note the extension. And when I note the extension, of course, when I know the stress, stress means force per unit area. If I know the area of cross section of this wire, of course, area of cross section of this wire, I can know area is pi r square. So if I can find the radius by using screw gauge, I can find the radius and then I can find the area of cross section, and force will be equals to mg, which is acting on the wire when you apply the weights. So it means stress can be calculated by knowing the weight applied here on the free end of the wire. At the same time, I can find the strain. Strain means simply delta L upon L. So if I know the extension, I know the actual length, initial length, I can come to know the strain. Experiment actually was done by Young, after whose name you have studied, Young's modulus of elasticity. He only performed this experiment, and when we applied the stress, this was the graph which was attained. It means from O to A, if I go, I'm getting a straight line graph with me. It means when I increase the weight or I increase the stress, because for a given area, you if increase the force applied, then of course you are increasing the stress. Then the strain is also increasing. Both are coming proportional up to this point, A point, and that is why to A point we are calling it as the proportional limit. A point is termed as proportional limit. It means from O to A, when I'm changing the stress, I'm increasing the value of the load applied. The graph strain is coming proportional to stress. It means Hooke's law is being obeyed within this limit O to A. And you all know Hooke's law, that is F it is equals to minus of Kx. It means force applied is directly proportional to the extension produced. Now, if further we increase the stress a little, not much, very small value of stress is increased, then this V point, up to this V point, though we say that if I remove the weight, then it is able to regain its original length. O means no strain. I'm saying means here I can say that strain is 0. It means this O point is giving me the actual length of this wire. If L is the length of this wire, at this point the L is, it is showing you the length of the wire. It means in between O to A and even up to this point B point, before little B point, I can say if I remove these weights, the wire is able to regain its original length. It means it is working within elastic limit. So that is why B point, we are calling it as the elastic limit, or we are calling it as the yield point, because if just a little beyond B if I go, it means I apply the stress beyond B, then what is happening? If I unload this wire, the wire is not able to regain its original configuration. It means supposingly at this C point, I remove these weights applied, then I'm able to get there is a permanent increase in the length of the wire. Supposingly initially I have taken the length of 1 meter, then the length can become 1.001 meter. It means there will be permanent increase in the length of the wire, and this length, this OO dash, we call it as the permanent set. It means we are not able to regain its original configuration. So this is permanent set. And yield point, you can say, beyond which if I increase the value of the load applied, then it is not able to regain its original configuration. It means Hooke's law is no more valid beyond B point if I go. So this B point, we call it as the elastic limit. Now what is happening, even this after C point, still if I increase the stress, you may see that the wire may have the clinks. It means it will get, its length will start increasing by itself until it reaches this point, D point, that is termed as the fracture point. So here you can see we can have the clinks we can have, or we can see that the wire starts stretching by itself, and this is showing the plastic behavior of the wire. So more this region CD, more the wire you can stretch, and at the D point we see that the wire it breaks. It means just like you are applying the force, and then beyond a limit it will get a permanent set. And further, if you increase the value of the load applied, then what is happening? It is going to break by itself, this fracture point, or I may call it as the breaking point. And at this point, the stress which is there, that is known as breaking stress. It means if I see the value of the stress corresponding to this point, that stress I will call it as the breaking stress. And that means that much weight it can bear, beyond it will break by itself. So this graph showing you the stress strain graph of a metallic wire is of course very important. As I have said that this breaking stress, you may term it as the tensile strength of the material. Breaking stress, the tensile strength of the material. You can be asked to explain this graph and define the various terms, like what is the proportional limit, what is elastic limit, what is breaking stress. All these you should be able to explain. And this, as I was saying, that Young performed the experiment. So he took an reference wire whose length was fixed. And this is the experimental wire whose you want to find the this extension produced, or experimental wire I may call. And when load was applied on the experimental wire, so extension could be noted with the reference to this given reference wire with the help of a vernier scale arrangement. And then of course we found the stress means force applied to the area divided by strain means delta L upon L. So experimentally this thing can be done. When you change the value of the load applied, you can find the extension, you can find the slope of the graph, delta theta, that will be given by delta L upon mg. L actual length, that is the reference wire length, that is known to you. Radius you can calculate by using the screw gauge, and from the slope of the graph you can put the value 1 upon slope to find the Young's modulus of elasticity. And it is important to find the Young's modulus of elasticity of various materials, because by having this knowledge of the Young's modulus of elasticity only, I can use the different materials for different purposes. So Young's modulus of elasticity finding is important from the practical point of view, and that can be done experimentally by doing all these steps. It means I will change the load applied. By changing the load applied, I can find the extension, and hence I can find the Young's modulus of elasticity. Of course, that will be in Newton per meter square, same units as that of stress. And with the help of finding these all things, stress strain graph and Young's modulus of elasticity, I'm able to do the classification of materials. It means, as I was saying, that how to use these particular material for different purposes, like which are the ductile material, which are the brittle materials, that can be classified by studying the stress strain graph. So if this is the stress strain graph of a particular material, like this AD part, it will depend upon proportional limit. This Hooke's law applied is O to A point is of course up to this point. If I remove the weight anywhere, it will regain its original position. But the plastic region, if it is large, it means from C to D, or you can say A to D length of the wire, how much you can do the extension, or you can say the plastic region is large, if then the materials, they can be transformed into thin wires, which are known as ductile materials. It means you can make the wires of those materials like copper, silver, aluminum. These are the examples which are the ductile materials. But if this D point comes very close, like if D point comes here only, so just beyond the elastic limit, if you start applying this, then plastic region is very small. It means this AD portion you can decrease further, and these materials we call it as the brittle materials because they cannot be extended. They just break after even applying the little stress after the elastic limit. For example, glass is there, ceramics are there, and even cast iron, which is the low quality of the iron, that also breaks easily. So these are this is the classification of the materials on the basis of stress strain graph. So I can classify ductile and brittle materials, and thus we can use those particular materials for the given purposes. And metals for making the thin sheets. When I'm saying thin sheets means I'm compressing the materials. And when I compress the materials, then also similar to the elastic limit breaking point, I get a point which is known as crushing point. So I'm plotting the graph between compression and the applied force. In place of extension, now compression is there. So you are applying the force in the opposite direction. So that is why I have taken it in the third quadrant. So applied force is coming with the negative sign and length is also decreasing. So both on the negative axis. So when you are compressing the solid, then you can apply the force only again up to a particular limit, elastic limit, then it will regain its original position. But if you are going beyond it, then it will not be able to recover its original states. So this application we are using in making the thin sheets. We call these materials as malleable materials, and the characteristic is malleability. For example, we are using the aluminum sheets, we are using the gold sheets and the silver sheets as well. So these are the materials which are termed as the malleable materials. So similar to your extension graph, we are having the compression graph with us. So you should be able to draw these graphs of this, and should be able to differentiate between the ductile, brittle and malleable materials. Of materials which is there with you is that is elastomers. Like your rubber you are using, simple rubber which you use to just hold the objects, like you stretch those rubbers, and then when you release they are coming, but there is always extension. So they are not able to regain its original configuration. Some extension is always there. So for such materials, When you do the graph plotting for stress strain graph, you are not getting a straight line graph. The graph is coming like this. It means they are not following Hooke's law. Hooke's law is not being obeyed by these materials which are known as elastomers. It means when you are applying the force, then large value of strains are produced with small stress even. And the examples, as I've said, rubber we are using in day-to-day life, and in your body, blood vessels which are carrying the blood from your heart, aorta vessels are there which are behaving like elastomers. So a rubber is not elastic material, that is elastomer. That you should be knowing. With you is that is elastic after effect. These all of course can be asked as the definition, or you can be asked the question on the basis of these terms. Like if I'm talking about elastic after effect, it means what it is, that I'm stretching this wire, and when I remove the deforming forces, then what is happening? The body is not able to regain its original configuration. So that delay in regaining the original state on the removal of the deforming forces, that is termed as elastic after effect. And now by this knowledge, now when I'm using the electrical devices like galvanometers, voltmeters in the lab, then what we want? We want that when we pass the current, then immediately I should get the reading, and when I switch off, then immediately it should come at zero. So it means there should not be any delay in the regaining the original state. So we want that the elastic after effect should be very small, or there should not be any elastic after effect. It means it should be dead beat. Galvanometers like we are using, in which we are using the suspension wires which are made from quartz or from phosphor bronze alloy. Because these materials, these are of course alloys, we have made it for this purpose, that their elastic after effect is small. So this elastic after effect, if I know what is elastic after effect, then I can find the elastic after effect of different materials, and then accordingly I can transform, I can make the alloys, and I can use those materials for the various purposes. So the question can be asked that why these which material you should be preferring for making the suspension wires, why, what is elastic after effect. So these all terms you should be able to tell. Similarly, the next term with you is elastic fatigue. Elastic fatigue, like if I take this wire and I turn it, I just make it straight, then turn it, then make it straight, this way if I keep doing, then what will happen? After some time it will break. So why? Because you are giving them repeatedly strains, repeatedly you are increasing the force, means you are applying the stress, and thus what is happening? There is loss in the strength of the material. So when there is loss in the strength of the material, then it will of course break after some time, even if you have not applied the breaking stress, but you are simply applying the small stress, but you are repeatedly applying the small value of the stress. It means you are giving it strain number of times, and as a result the elastic fatigue is coming, and due to that it may break. Like you people also get tired. So in general day-to-day life, you can compare this term fatigue with the tiredness. So when that is getting tired, means then it will stop working, or it will not further go, it will simply break. So that is elastic term with you, that is elastic hysteresis. Like when we deal with the stress strain graph of elastomers, like things with us like rubber is there, then this is the graph when you are applying the force, and then when you remove the forces, then as I've said, the graph is not following the same pattern. It means it is coming by this method because it is not following Hooke's law. If a body is following Hooke's law, then stress strain graph will be like this, and on removal also you will be getting the graph same graph is retraced. But now when we are talking about the elastomers, for where means the materials for which the Hooke's law is not obeyed, then this path is not retraced and some area is covered between these two lines while loading, I can say, when I'm doing the loading, and this is when you unload. So while loading and unloading, I'm not getting the same graph, but for the elastic materials we get the same graph. Loading and unloading, the same graph is their straight line graph. Hooke's law is obeyed. But for elastomers, the Hooke's law is not obeyed. So when I load, I'm getting the graph like this. When I unload, I get the graph like this. So this a loop which is formed by loading and unloading, this we call it as the hysteresis loop. So this loop we call it as the hysteresis loop, and the area which is there under this graph, that gives you the work done in stretching the rubber. And this phenomenon which is there, that stress strain graph is not retraced, that is known as elastic hysteresis. So this have also found many applications in selecting the materials. So this is important. What is elastic hysteresis? What is hysteresis loop? And the area under this loop is giving you the work done per unit volume. This you should be noting, that work done per unit volume, it means what is the amount of heat produced. I may say that if more is the area, more is the heat produced. If less is the area, less is the value of the heat produced. And this has found the applications. Like in car tires, we are using the synthetic rubbers which are having the small loop area. Small loop area means it will not get heated excessively during the journey. So we want that this hysteresis loop area should be less for the rubber which we are using in making the wheels of your vehicles. Similarly, when you are using the rubber for machinery, putting the heavy machinery on it, then we want it to absorb the vibrations, and for that we are using the vulcanized rubber. So vulcanized rubber which is having the large area, means large, it will be able to produce absorb the vibrations. So more vibrations it will be able to absorb, and these are used in making the shock absorbers. So these all things are taken care, that which material I should be using for making the particular thing which we have to use in our day-to-day life. So keep things up to this